The massive Imperial scout ship dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Sol system. Its sleek, silver hull reflected the distant sunlight as it moved silently through space. The ship's captain stood proudly on the bridge, his purple skin gleaming under the soft light of the control panels. "Another primitive system to add to our glorious empire," the captain said to his crew. They had done this hundreds of times before. Find a new civilization, show their power, and watch them bow down in submission. But this time was different. As soon as their sensors focused on the third planet, alarms started blaring. "Captain," shouted the sensor officer, "I'm detecting thousands of artificial satellites, multiple orbital stations, and defensive platforms around the planet." The captain frowned. This was unexpected for a Level 3 civilization. Usually, such young species barely had space stations, let alone defensive systems. Following standard protocol, the Imperial ship broadcast their message across all frequencies. "Attention, inhabitants of Sol 3. This is the Imperial scout ship Dawn of Peace representing the Galactic Empire. Your world has been chosen to join our magnificent empire. Prepare for our diplomatic team's arrival." In a small office deep within Earth's Defense Command, Admiral James Wilson read the message on his screen. He was an older man with gray hair and eyes that had seen too many wars. Without any sign of worry, he pressed a button on his desk. "Get me the President," he said calmly, "and activate Defense Protocol 0. Around Earth, hidden defense platforms silently powered up. Stealth satellites changed position. Deep in underground bunkers, soldiers put on their combat suits. Humanity had been preparing for this day for decades. The Imperial captain waited for the usual response: panic, confusion, or immediate surrender. Instead, his communication officer looked confused. "Captain, we're receiving a response. Audio only, in perfect Imperial standard." "Play it," the captain ordered. A deep, calm voice filled the bridge. "This is Admiral James Wilson of the Earth Defense Force. We've been watching your empire's expansion for the last 50 years. We know your tactics. We know your weaknesses. We know how you break the spirits of young civilizations. Here's our response. Run." The captain laughed. "How amusing. These primitives think they can threaten us. Send another message. Tell them." "Captain," the sensor officer interrupted. "New contacts. Hundreds of them, appearing from behind their moon." On the main screen, dots of light emerged from the dark side of Earth's moon. Ships of various sizes, their designs unlike anything in the Imperial database, moved into formation. "Impossible," the captain whispered. "Their technology level." "Sir, we're detecting energy readings from Mars now too. More ships rising from the surface." The captain's hands gripped his chair. According to their intelligence, these humans had only reached their moon a few generations ago. How could they have hidden an entire fleet? Admiral Wilson watched the Imperial scout ship through his office window. He took a sip of coffee and smiled slightly. On his desk, a small screen showed the status of Earth's defenses. Ghost Fleet, active. Lunar Defense Grid, online. Mars Strike Force, ready. Jupiter mining colonies, armed. Titan base, standing by. "Send them our second message," he ordered. Back on the Imperial ship, the communication officer's hands shook as he played the new transmission. "This is your final warning. We are not like the other worlds you've conquered. We have spent our entire history fighting ourselves, perfecting the art of war. We've been preparing for aliens like you since we first looked up at the stars. Leave now and warn your empire. If you choose war with humanity, we will not stop at defense. We will not surrender. We will not show mercy. You have 1 hour to leave our system." The captain looked at the fleet of Earth ships, their weapons clearly aimed at his vessel. For the first time in his career, he felt real fear. "Plot a course back to Imperial space," he ordered quietly. "Maximum speed." As the Imperial ship disappeared into hyperspace, Admiral Wilson opened a secure channel to all Earth forces. "And so it begins. May God have mercy on them, because we won't. The Imperial Council chamber was silent as the scout ship's report played on the large screen. 12 ancient beings sat around a crystal table, their faces showing a mix of anger and disbelief. Impossible. Lord High Commander Rex slammed his fist on the table. No Level 3 civilization has ever hidden their military power from us. Our scanners are perfect. Tom Reed, the human military advisor who had lived among the Empire for 5 years as part of Earth's secret infiltration, stood quietly in the corner. The Empire had never suspected that their primitive human consultant was actually a high-ranking intelligence officer. "My lords," Tom spoke softly, drawing their attention. "Perhaps I can help explain my people's ways." The council members turned to him. They had always seen him as a harmless curiosity, a pet human who helped them understand primitive cultures. How wrong they were. "Speak, human," the High Commander ordered. Tom walked to the center of the room, his simple brown uniform a stark contrast to their bright robes. "You see, on Earth, we have a saying. The best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't know about." He pressed a button, and the room's display changed to show Earth's history. "Look at our wars. We didn't just fight with weapons. We fought with secrets, with hidden plans, with tricks and traps." Images flashed across the screen. Ancient wooden horses hiding soldiers, underground bunkers, stealth aircraft, and submarine bases beneath the ice. For thousands of years, we fought ourselves. Each war taught us new lessons. While you were building an empire through shows of force, we were learning how to hide our strength until the perfect moment. The council members watched in growing horror as Tom showed them Earth's military history. Wars fought not with grand fleets in space, but in jungles, deserts, and oceans. Battles won not by the side with the biggest army, but by the cleverer commander. "And now," Tom continued, "you've given us the greatest gift of all time. 50 years of watching your empire expand. 50 years of studying your tactics. 50 years of preparing." Lord Grey, who had always supported peaceful expansion, spoke up. "But surely they must see that resistance is pointless. Our empire spans thousands of worlds." Tom smiled sadly. "That's your first mistake. You think size equals strength. Let me show you something else." He displayed a new image, a single Imperial warship being taken down by hundreds of smaller craft. "This is from your war with the Rigel system. You won, of course. But look closer." The council leaned forward. "See how those small ships moved? That was based on Earth fighter tactics. Those rebels had human advisors. We've been testing your defenses for years, through others. Every rebel group you crushed taught us more about your weaknesses." The High Commander stood up, his face purple with rage. "You dare admit to helping rebels? Guards." But Tom just laughed. "The guards outside. They'd been replaced by humans hours ago. Don't worry. They're under orders not to harm you. This is just a demonstration." The council chamber's doors opened, revealing human soldiers in Imperial Guard uniforms. They had been there all along, watching, waiting. "You see," Tom explained, straightening his uniform to reveal a general's insignia hidden beneath a fold. "While your scout ship was meeting our fleet, human agents across your empire were moving into position. Right now, there are humans on every major Imperial world. In your factories, your shipyards, your defense systems." The council sat in stunned silence. "We didn't want this war," Tom said quietly. "That's why we warned you to run. Humanity doesn't want to rule your empire. We just want to be left alone. But if you force this fight," he shook his head, "you've never fought humans before. You don't know what we're capable of." As Tom walked out of the chamber, the High Commander found his voice. "Send the fleet. All of it. We'll crush these primitives." Tom smiled as he heard the order. Everything was going exactly as Earth had planned. The Empire would send their fleet straight into humanity's trap. Back on Earth, Admiral Wilson received the coded message. "Council meeting successful. Empire taking the bait. Operation Ghost Fleet is ready for Phase 2. The real war was about to begin. The Imperial battle fleet emerged from hyperspace near Mars, their 10,000 ships filling the space between Mars and Earth like stars in the night sky. Each Imperial warship was massive, the smallest being the size of a small city. Fleet Commander Jack Thompson watched from the bridge of his small ship hidden behind Phobos, one of Mars' moons. His vessel was tiny compared to the Imperial ships, but size wasn't everything. "All Ghost Fleet units, report in," he ordered quietly. One by one, 500 human ships checked in. They were scattered across the solar system, hidden behind moons, asteroids, and in plain sight using their stealth systems. Each ship was painted black, designed to be nearly invisible in space. The Imperial Fleet Admiral's voice boomed across all channels. "People of Earth, behold the might of the Imperial Fleet. Your pathetic warnings mean nothing. Surrender now, or we will destroy your entire civilization." In response, Earth sent a single message: no. The Fleet Admiral laughed. "Very well. All ships, prepare tow." Suddenly, alarms blared across the Imperial fleet. Small objects were appearing everywhere around their ships, hundreds, then thousands of them. "What are those?" the Admiral demanded. His answer came in the form of massive explosions as the mines, secretly placed days ago, began detonating. The carefully planned trap was sprung. "Ghost Fleet, execute Operation Firefly," Commander Thompson ordered. Human ships emerged from their hiding places, but not to attack directly. Instead, they launched swarms of small fighter craft. These fighters were different from anything the Empire had seen before. They were piloted by humans but enhanced with artificial intelligence, making them impossibly quick and agile. The Imperial ships tried to track them with their advanced targeting systems, but the human fighters moved too erratically, too unpredictably. It was like trying to swat thousands of angry hornets with a sledgehammer. "Status report," the Imperial Admiral shouted as his flagship shook from multiple impacts. "My lord, we've lost contact with 30 ships. These humans, they're not attacking our weapons or bridges. They're targeting our engine rooms, power systems, and hyperspace drives." The Admiral's eyes widened. The humans weren't trying to destroy his fleet. They were trapping it. Commander Thompson smiled as he watched the battle unfold. The Empire had expected a traditional space battle with ships firing at each other in organized lines. Instead, they got chaos. Human fighters darted between Imperial ships, causing them to hit each other with their own weapons. Small boarding craft attached themselves to Imperial vessels, cutting holes in their hulls. Earth's ships never stayed in one place long enough to be targeted. "Launch the drones," Thompson ordered. Thousands of robotic drones joined the fight. They were cheap, expendable, and packed with explosives. The Imperial ships couldn't tell which were real threats and which were decoys. "My lord," an Imperial officer screamed. "They're inside our computer systems. Our weapons are shutting down." The Admiral watched in horror as his mighty fleet fell into confusion. Human hackers, who had studied Imperial technology for years, were turning their own ships against them. 3 hours into the battle, the Imperial fleet was in ruins. Half their ships were disabled, a quarter had been captured, and the rest were trapped by Earth's gravitational field, unable to escape. The Admiral received a new transmission. This time, it was Admiral Wilson from Earth. "This was just our solar system defense fleet," Wilson's calm voice explained. "Our main battle fleet is still hidden. Surrender now, and we'll let your crews evacuate safely. Continue fighting, and we'll be forced to show you what a real human attack looks like." For the first time in 10,000 years, an Imperial fleet admiral surrendered. As escape pods launched from the Imperial ships, Commander Thompson sent a message to Earth. First battle complete. Casualties minimal. Captured technology beyond expectations. The Empire's biggest mistake wasn't attacking us, it was giving us time to prepare. Back on Earth, Admiral Wilson looked at the reports coming in from across the galaxy. Human agents were in position on hundreds of Imperial worlds. The captured Imperial ships would be studied, their technology adapted and improved. This was just the beginning. The Empire had started this war expecting to fight primitives. Instead, they had awakened humanity's full potential, and humanity was just getting started. The Imperial Palace shook as the Emperor himself threw a solid gold cup against the wall. Reports from across the galaxy flooded his screens, none of them good. How? He roared. How are they everywhere at once? Captain Mary Stone watched from the shadows of the palace gardens, disguised as a simple maintenance worker. For 3 years, she had tended these gardens, building trust, becoming invisible to the Empire's eyes. Now, she activated her hidden communications device and listened to the Emperor's rage. The Emperor's advisors cowered as he read the latest reports. Imperial Shipyard 17. Destroyed. Fuel Production Center 89. Sabotage. Military Academy on Proxima I. All ships missing. Main battle fleet. Under constant attack from unknown vessels. Send everything we have. The Emperor commanded. Every ship, every soldier. Crush these humans. Mary smiled as she pruned the royal flowers. That was exactly what Earth had been waiting for. In deep space, Robert Smith, now promoted to fleet commander, received the coded message from Mary. Operation Hornet's Nest is go, he told his crews. The Empire is about to learn why you should never fight a war on too many fronts. Across Imperial space, hidden human ships emerged from their hiding places. They weren't large or powerful like Imperial vessels. Instead, they were small, fast, and piloted by crews who had trained for years for this moment. All units, Robert broadcasted. Execute Plan Thunder. The human ships didn't attack the Imperial fleet directly. Instead, they targeted supply lines, fuel stations, and communication relays. Imperial ships would power up to jump into battle, only to find their fuel had been contaminated. Communications would fail at critical moments. Supply ships would arrive at empty coordinates. In her garden, Mary watched the Emperor receive more desperate messages. My lord, we've lost contact with the 7th Fleet. The humans are using our own supply routes against us. We can't tell which planets are loyal anymore. The Emperor's face turned pale as he realized the truth. The humans hadn't just prepared for a space war. They had prepared for a galaxy-wide guerrilla campaign. Back on Earth, Admiral Wilson stood in the new command center built inside Mount Everest. Holographic displays showed the positions of every human ship and agent across Imperial space. Status report, he ordered. His officers responded one by one. Manufacturing bases on Mars are producing 500 ships per day. Our agents have successfully copied Imperial shield technology. Rebel worlds are requesting Earth's protection. The Empire's trade routes are completely disrupted. Wilson nodded. Begin Phase 4. Tell Mary it's time. In the Imperial Palace gardens, Mary received the message. She walked calmly to the palace's main power core, where she had been planting special seeds for the past 3 years. With a simple command, the devices activated. The entire Imperial Palace went dark. As backup systems failed one by one, Mary changed into her Earth Force uniform and walked straight into the Emperor's chamber. The guards, who knew her as the harmless gardener, didn't stop her until it was too late. "Hello, Your Majesty," she said, standing before the Emperor's throne. "Earth sends its regards." The Emperor stared at her in shock. You were here all along." Mary nodded. "Just like we're everywhere. Your entire empire is built on worlds you conquered, peoples you oppressed. Did you really think none of them would help us?" She activated a hologram showing the true extent of Earth's infiltration. Humans serving as maintenance workers on key Imperial worlds. Rebel planets providing hidden bases. Copied Imperial technology being improved in secret factories. Entire star systems ready to declare independence. The Emperor slumped in his throne. "What do you want?" "The same thing we wanted from the start," Mary replied. "For you to understand that you should have run when we warned you. Now you're going to learn why humans are the most dangerous species you've ever faced." As if to emphasize her point, the sky above the imperial capital lit up with the arrival of Earth's main battle fleet. 10,000 ships that had been hiding in plain sight, disguised as merchant vessels and space debris. The real war was about to begin. And this time, humanity would not be fighting from the shadows. The Imperial High Command meeting room was eerily quiet. Once, it had been filled with confident generals planning conquests. Now, those same generals jumped at every sound, their eyes constantly checking the shadows. "Another system has declared independence," General Max reported, his hand shaking as he read the latest news. "That makes 15 this week." The humans had not just brought war to the Empire, they had brought fear. In his new command ship orbiting the Imperial capital, Admiral Wilson watched the Empire's flow collapse. His vessel wasn't the biggest or most powerful in Earth's fleet. Instead, it was designed to be completely invisible to Imperial sensors. "Sir," his communication officer called. "Message from Agent Stone at the palace." Mary's voice came through clearly. "The psychological warfare is working better than expected. They're seeing humans in every shadow now. 3 generals tried to surrender this morning because they thought their own cleaning staff were our agents." Wilson smiled. "Good. Implement Phase 5. Across Imperial space, human agents began the next stage of their carefully planned war. They didn't fire a single shot. They didn't need to. On the Imperial core world of Nova Prime, all the public screens suddenly activated. They showed images of human history, not of wars or battles, but of horror movies. The Imperial citizens watched in terror as fictional monsters and supernatural creatures played across their screens. "Sir," an Imperial officer reported to his commander, "the humans sent us entertainment videos." The commander didn't understand at first. Then reports started coming in. Citizens refusing to go out at night. Ships refusing to leave port because of ghost ship sightings. Entire military bases evacuated because of strange noises. The humans had weaponized fear itself. In the Imperial Palace, Mary walked openly through the halls now, dressed in her Earth Force uniform. The guards pressed themselves against the walls as she passed, their eyes wide with terror. She entered the Emperor's chamber for their daily meeting. The once proud ruler now looked tired and scared. "How?" he asked her. "How do you do it?" Mary sat down casually. "Do what?" "Make my people so afraid. We're the most powerful empire in the galaxy." "Were," Mary corrected him. "And that's exactly why it works. You never knew fear. Your people never knew defeat. But humans," she smiled, "we grew up with fear. We turned it into stories, into movies, into art. We learned to use it. On 1,000 Imperial worlds, the carefully crafted psychological attacks continued. Random systems would shut down, then start working again with no explanation. Security cameras would show glimpses of shadows moving by themselves. Communication systems would pick up whispers in the dark. "Message from Fleet Commander Smith," Wilson's officer reported. "The Imperial Third Fleet just surrendered. They say they'd rather face our justice than our ghosts." Wilson nodded. The Empire had expected a war of ships and weapons. Instead, they got a war of nerves. Every Imperial citizen now believed that humans could be anywhere, could do anything. In the Imperial Academy, cadets watched in horror as their training simulations showed them losing to human forces again and again. They weren't real battles, just carefully crafted programs designed to break their confidence. Mary stood at the palace window, watching the Imperial capital. "Your people are starting to understand something, Emperor. Something humanity learned long ago." "What's that?" he asked quietly. "The most powerful weapon isn't a gun or a ship. It's fear. You fear us because you don't understand us. And everything fears what it doesn't understand." Her communicator beeped. Admiral Wilson's voice came through. Phase 5 complete. 70% of Imperial systems are now requesting independence. Their fear of staying with the Empire is greater than their fear of joining us. Mary turned to the Emperor. Would you like to know what's coming next? The Emperor shook his head, his face pale. That's good, Mary smiled, because the fear of what's coming is far worse than anything we could actually do. We learned that from our own history. The monster you imagine is always scarier than the one you can see. Across the galaxy, the mighty Empire continued to crumble, defeated not by Earth's weapons, but by humanity's understanding of fear itself. Red emergency lights flashed through the Imperial Palace as alarms sounded across the capital city. On every screen, the same message played. The Empire is dead. Long live freedom. Admiral Wilson watched from his command ship as thousands of Imperial warships changed their identification codes to show new allegiances. The Empire wasn't just falling, it was shattering into pieces. Status report, he ordered. His officers responded quickly. Western sector, 89% of worlds have declared independence. Eastern sector, all Imperial fleets have surrendered. Core worlds, mass celebrations in the streets. Outer Rim, former colonies requesting Earth's protection. In the palace gardens, Mary Stone met with the leaders of 30 former Imperial worlds. They gathered around the same tables where the Emperor once planned his conquests. You see, Mary explained to them, Earth never wanted to rule the Empire. We just wanted to break its power. Now, you're all free to choose your own paths. One alien leader, his blue skin shimmering in the sunlight, spoke up. But how can we defend ourselves? We don't have Earth's military power. Mary smiled and activated a holographic display. That's why we're here. Earth is offering to share its defense technology with any world that wants it, not to control you, but to make sure no empire can ever threaten you again. The alien leaders watched in amazement as Mary showed them Earth's gift. Plans for stealth ship technology, defense system designs, shield generators, early warning systems. All of this, Mary said, in exchange for one promise: help us keep the peace. Meanwhile, Commander Robert Smith led his fleet to the Empire's last stronghold, their massive shipyard at Beta Station. But when his ships arrived, he found something unexpected. The Imperial workers weren't fighting. They were waiting. We surrender, the station's commander announced. But not to Earth. We surrender to the idea of freedom. Robert watched as the station's workers began converting warships into humanitarian vessels. The Empire's weapons of war were becoming tools of peace. Back in the Imperial Palace, the Emperor sat alone in his throne room. Mary entered, carrying the simple wooden box. Is that my prison cell? The Emperor asked bitterly. No, Mary replied, opening the box to reveal a simple document. This is your chance to be remembered as the Emperor who chose peace over pride. The document was simple, an official declaration dissolving the Empire and establishing the Galactic Federation of Free Worlds. Under its terms, all worlds would be independent. Earth would provide defense technology to all members. Trade would flow freely between worlds. No single species could dominate another. As the Emperor read, his hands stopped shaking. You never wanted to destroy us, did you? No, Mary answered. We just wanted to show you a better way. Earth spent thousands of years fighting itself. We learned the hard way that true power comes from working together, not controlling others. Admiral Wilson received the signed document and immediately broadcast it across the galaxy. The response was immediate. Celebrations erupted on thousands of worlds. Former Imperial soldiers threw down their weapons. Ancient enemies began peace talks. Trading ships replaced warships. In Earth's orbital station, Wilson met with his commanders. It worked, Commander Smith reported. The Empire fell without us having to destroy it. But why give away our military secrets? Wilson looked out at the stars. Because the best way to prevent war is to make sure everyone is strong enough to defend themselves. We're not creating an empire, we're creating a family. As the sun set on the imperial capital for the last time, Mary planted a new garden. This time, she used flowers from 100 different worlds, all growing together. A young imperial child watched her work. "What are you planting?" "Hope," Mary replied. "And this time, we're all going to help it grow." Across the galaxy, the age of empires ended, and the age of cooperation began. Humanity had done what no other species thought possible. They had changed the galaxy not through conquest, but through wisdom born from their own violent past. 5 years after the Empire's fall, the Great Hall of the new Galactic Federation buzzed with activity. Representatives from over 10,000 worlds gathered for the 5th Annual Unity Conference. The hall itself was built on Earth, its massive dome showing the real-time movements of ships across the galaxy. Not warships anymore, but trading vessels and exploration craft. Admiral Wilson, now retired but serving as Earth's ambassador, stood at the speaker's podium. His hair had grown whiter, but his eyes still held the same sharp intelligence that had helped guide humanity's strategy. 5 years ago, he began, we warned the Empire to run. They didn't listen. But what happened next surprised everyone, even us. The audience, made up of beings from across the galaxy, listened intently. Many were former Imperial citizens who had once feared humans. Now they worked alongside them. Mary Stone, who had traded her spy uniform for diplomatic robes, sat in the front row. On her desk lay reports from across the galaxy. Former Imperial worlds now leading scientific research. Mixed crews of humans and aliens exploring deep space. Ancient enemies trading peacefully. Joint defense fleets protecting trade routes. The Empire thought we were primitives. Wilson continued. They were right, but not in the way they thought. We were primitive enough to remember our past. Primitive enough to know that power without wisdom leads to destruction. In orbit above Earth, Commander Robert Smith led a training session for the new Federation Defense Force. Ships from 100 different worlds practiced together, sharing their unique strengths. Human stealth technology, alien energy systems, combined shield designs, joint tactical planning. The former emperor, now living quietly as a history teacher, watched his students learn about the galaxy's transformation. Who can tell me, he asked, why the humans succeeded where the Empire failed? A young alien student raised her hand. Because they didn't want to rule us. They'd wanted to help us rule ourselves. In the Great Hall, Wilson activated a holographic display showing the galaxy's progress. Trade had increased by 500%. Scientific discoveries had doubled each year. Poverty on former Imperial worlds had decreased by 70%. No major conflicts had occurred since the Empire's fall. But our greatest achievement, Wilson said, isn't in these numbers. It's in what we've become together. The dome above showed a new kind of ship launching from Earth's space docks. It was built by humans, powered by alien technology, and crewed by beings from 20 different worlds. Its mission: to explore beyond the galaxy's edge. Mary stood up to join Wilson at the podium. 5 years ago, we were enemies. The Empire feared us because they didn't understand us. They saw our warnings as threats, but we weren't threatening them with destruction. We were offering them change. In deep space, the first joint exploration fleet prepared for its mission. Former Imperial commanders worked alongside human captains. Ships that once fought each other now flew together. Today, Wilson announced, we launched the greatest mission in galactic history, not a mission of war or conquest, but of discovery. We go not as humans, not as former Imperial citizens, but as one people. The audience erupted in applause as the exploration fleet jumped to light speed. Their mission patch showed a simple design, a human hand and an alien hand clasped together against a backdrop of stars. In her garden at the old Imperial Palace, now the Federation's cultural center, Mary planted new seeds with help from children of different species. "What will grow here?" asked a former Imperial child. And Earth child answered, "Whatever we plant together." As the sun set on this new era, Admiral Wilson made his final announcement. "We warned the Empire to run because we knew war would destroy them. Instead, they learned to stand with us. And together, we'll run not from each other, but toward the future." The Great Hall's dome showed one final image. Thousands of worlds, once divided by fear and power, now united by something stronger, hope. Earth had achieved what no weapon could: true peace through understanding. They had turned enemies into allies, fear into trust, and an empire of control into a federation of equals. The humans who had warned the Empire to run now led them forward, into a future brighter than any species could have imagined alone.